So it's been a few years since I've tested a Volvo, mostly down to pandemics and lockdowns and all sorts of other stuff. So I've come straight in to the C40, which is like a coupe version of the XC40, if you know what I mean. So it looks a bit like an XC40, but you'll notice electric cars now are starting to do away with the grille in the front, which is simply because they don't need an air intake in the way that a car needs an air intake or an engine needs an air intake. So this one is the top spec, more or less, top spec one of the C40, fully electric. It's got a very big battery. It's not as efficient as I thought it was going to be, but we'll get into that in the drive part of it first. First of all, let's find out what it's like on the exterior. I just want to take this opportunity to thank Mammon Competition for sponsoring this video. Thank you very much. MammonCompetitions.com if you want to get involved at some point. It should be open by the time you see this video. But look, the most important part is to subscribe to the channel. Subscribe for more content. Most importantly, we build our little community here of car enthusiasts to find out what we can do with cars in the future. Anyway, I'm going to stop interrupting you now. Back to the review. So as I said, the front is becoming quite, would you say bland? Would you say boring maybe? Without these radiators built into them, without the front, the grille part just filled in. I want to show you something else as well while I'm there at the front. This actually has a front boot, a front storage, a frunk, whatever you want to call that. Just tucked over to one side here. It's clamshell, so the whole thing lifts up. It's on a ram as well. 2 rams either side. And underneath that then there's a good little storage unit right here, which keeps all your cables and wires and plugs and things that you need to run these cars with, because, well, obviously press cars come with a bit of different stuff in them, but more or less everything's in there that you need. It's actually the back that has a good distinct shape, besides the charge point being on this side of the car, the passenger side of the car, which really suits my charge point at home. So that's on the same side of the driveway as on this side. It's really handy. But anyway, the coupe look here, this kind of boomerang light around the outside, comes all the way down here as well as little beading. It's very nice. These LEDs are very good. Little spoiler here, which is actually open at the bottom, and then there's a sort of a spoilery thing on the top of the roof as well. Boot is open. You can open with remote control, or you can open it just from the button underneath. The boot is actually considerably big, well over 400 litres, and there is a floor to lift stuff up as well and put more things underneath there, because of course we don't have engines and exhausts and big suspension parts and stuff that all held together. And there is shopping bag hooks and load through as well. It's very practical. Let's have a look on the inside, see what it's like. So back seat has big wide open doors, but there is actually a big chunk of the door that sticks out on one side. But interior wise, I'm not keen on the blue, just saying. The blue carpet and stuff is a little bit much. But interior wise, actually plenty of room in here, and unusually they don't have to extend the sunroof all the way back. I can still fit in here quite comfortably. There's a little net in the back of the seat, plus plastic backs, very important for parents. Heated seats in the rear of this, and there is a two USB-C ports for charging back here as well. So they're really kind of catered for the family stuff in the back as well. Good armrest in the centre, and this is a load through, which we saw a minute ago, which contains the headrests and stuff. Very complicated, but it's all here for the lowering of that. And very straightforwardly, they just drop straight down, and little headrest folds away as well, which you can put back up when you can hear it there. You hear the headrest releasing as it goes down into a sort of a drop down thing. So it's all very, very straightforward back here. Proper rear seat action in a car like this. Let's have a look at the front seat though, because there is a couple of things up front which make this a very important family unit. Good door bins as well. Again, not too keen on the blue, so I wouldn't spec blue for this car. But when you get in, the whole car doesn't start. What happens is everything comes on. So the car's not actually started until you put the gear shift into D or R. Then the car started. Right now, it's just turned on all of the useful stuff that's in here, right? So that was RT lyric that popped on there a second ago. The problem I have is I'm an Apple user, and there's nothing particularly wrong with Apple or Android, but that's an iPhone. Now, it's connected, but I have to go into Bluetooth media player, then I have to play something on this to stop the radio doing. Otherwise it defaults to the radio every time I get in. Because there isn't Apple CarPlay that I can find, and there isn't Android Auto that I can find either. So it's this basic Android system. The Android system works, don't get me wrong. Maps are Google Maps and they work fine. Radio works fine. Spotify is one of those app ones that you have to log into on the car. Then you have Google Assistant, your phone, and your range assistant, all these other little things. But it's just a little bit basic. The infotainment system in general is a bit basic. But moving on to the infotainment system, because it's basic, it works, it does well. There's these funny little storage areas. I think that one's for a phone, but my phone doesn't actually fit in there. I think that might be, I don't know what that's for, but this one I don't know what that's for either. There's another storage under here which is quite big and useful. 2 cup holders here in the centre. There's a wireless charging tray which I found myself throwing all my receipts into. But anyway, there's a wireless charging tray in here that does work and has a fairly decent charge on it. Now I don't know what the speed of charge is, but it actually does charge my phone up fairly rapidly. It does get hot as per usual, but there is also 2 USB-C ports which you can plug in there and you're fully charging straight away. So just drop it into that slot there too. Other stuff to worry about is until you start it, it's all locked up. So until you go into D, then it all starts up. So you have to push that into D. Now that doesn't mean it's going to roll away. It won't start driving. You just turn the car on. Now the car is on until you now get out. So the car turns off when you get out. That includes the radio and the stereo and all. Does anyone else find that annoying as an electric car driver? I kind of do. I want a button. So I don't mind sitting in a car with it turned off. I don't mind. Honest to God. I'd like to have a button somewhere and just go dump. And the whole thing just shuts down and shuts up and stops buzzing and there's a faint buzz and a whir. There's a fan noise. I want to be able to turn it off. But if I get out and get in, it's just come back on again. It's just annoying. It's just one of those little electric car things that's starting to get annoying. Stereo-wise, Harman Kardon in the stereo in here. This dashboard display is gorgeous. Map comes up in the middle of it. Funny enough, question that for you. If you didn't know how far you could go, how far would you go in an electric car? Because this is one of those electric cars that doesn't tell you the range all the time. It just says 60% full on the battery. It doesn't say how far that's going to go. You actually have to go out here into car status. No, go out here and then go into range assistant and it'll tell me I've got 200 kilometers if I leave the range optimizer on. If I turn that off, it'll have a little bit less. I can do probably down to about 150 kilometers. So the minimum range I can do is about 150 kilometers. So tell me what we do now. We'll go into the prices and stuff on the drive and we see if we can get more analysis done in this car. So let's get on the road. So as you know, as I said already, you actually started by clicking D. It's a weird way of starting a car, but because you feel like you're going to drive off then when you go to D, you know. But it is completely silent, as you would expect. There's a little warning coming up to say I'm too close to something, and the top-down visuals. So you can see my range now is 200 kilometers. I have 60% of the battery. I actually think it'd go further, simply because, like I say, if you don't know how far you're able to go, how far would you go? Like how deep into the percentage line would you actually go to? Because with 60%, I feel like I'm pretty invincible at going anywhere. And if I get rid of that screen for a second, there you go. You're done. Like you're looking at 200 kilometers because it says here at the bottom of the screen. If I change that to anything else, so if I go into this and I change it to car status here, and then I go back to this screen, it just disappears. The range is gone. I have no idea what range I'm going to be able to do now on 60% battery. I'm just going to have to chance it. Now, thinking about the car itself, there's a couple of cars, electric cars on the market that are very good to drive. The BMW i4 is one of them. I'd expect that because the BMW 4 Series is actually pretty good to drive as well. The i4 is very good. The Jaguar I-Pace is an incredible car to drive. And they're the 3 kind of best fast electric cars with a bit of feedback to drive as well. Now, these aren't cheap. I will say that for you. The 2 women have split both sides of the road now, so I don't know which way to kind of lean the car over. Should all go on the same side of the road, girls. Anyway, these aren't cheap, right? So there's a 2-wheel front-wheel drive version of this car, which won't be as exciting to drive, but yet it's going to be pretty rewarding to drive because Volvos are these days. They're not just safe, So this C40 is actually very rewarding to drive. It's interesting to drive. It's got a bit of feedback, and in the settings, crucially, in the driver assist settings, if you go down to the bottom of it here, it says steering wheel firm. I have that turned on. One pedal drive is also turned on, which is the best one pedal drive I've experienced in any of these cars that have that feature. Now what that means is I don't use the friction brakes, the actual brake pads closing on the discs to slow down. I use the recuperating system to do the slowing down. So I take my foot off, brake lights come on, and the whole car brakes. If I take my foot up a little bit, you get a little bit of resistance, you get a little bit of charge, and you just learn to run the car and drive the car just using a single pedal to do it all the time. It's actually really easy. After a while, you feel you begrudgingly press the brake pedal. You begrudgingly go, I suppose I have to press the brake pedal. I need to stop a little bit faster. Now, being a Volvo is full of safety equipment. There's lots of safety stuff in here. This has actually got active cruise control, active lane keeping. Lane keeping aids you can turn off. Ready to drive notification. There's a pilot assist on this one as well. Steering assist is on this as well. It's a little bit over the top, I'd say. It just seems to want to keep you on the left side of the lane all the time. It needs refinement, I think, Volvo. Dashboard layout's really good. Full map here in front of me. It is Google Maps when you're using the mapping, by the way. So it is a full Google Map system, and that is what makes it work. No, I don't want to go that way. You see that before. So this is a full Google Map system here that you're using. So if you're logged in as yourself on your Google Maps, you'll have your common destinations and everything else. Now, if you don't use Google Maps, that's an issue, because the only option here is Google Maps. It's not like I can load up Apple Maps, which are very good these days, or Waze, or any of the other alternatives to Google Maps. I'm not saying you want to use the alternatives, but if you don't like Google, you like a bit of privacy in your life, you're going to hate that. But for the most part, this is able to take all the destinations without actually logging into it. So I don't really need to log in. There's also Google Assistant on this as well to answer your questions. So there's a lot in the touchscreen, but doesn't seem to be much. There's actually a blank bit there in the middle. Air conditioning is still done on a touchscreen, and this I don't like Volvo. I don't think that's safe. Volvo is the pinnacle of safety and has been for many years. They invented a 3-point seatbelt and all that sort of stuff back in the 70s. Of course, the Japanese took it and made it better. But they've done all that, and yet we're still looking at this touchscreen, which is near on impossible to start playing with and touch with, because there's tiny little buttons on it. And I don't like that. I just wish they'd go back to having just a proper knob, switch, dial, something that would be physically haptic, easy to feedback. They give you a volume control, which I know you do change the volume control quite a bit, but that shouldn't be there, I don't think. Anyway, I've got to go into the range assistant for a second. Just turn off the range optimizer, because this thing has a phenomenal 0 to 60 time, or 0 to 100 kilometer an hour time, depending on what you're doing. And I mean like phenomenal. Look. Zero. You're going to go to zero now, right? Go. Oh my God, my neck! Oh. That literally, that's like being choked. But it's not just the 0 to 100 kilometer an hour time that actually is effective. It's the like 70 to 100 and 60 to 100. When you want to overtake something, or even up to 120 or way beyond that as well, no bother to this car. It's the moving speed. So it's when you're coming out of a corner like this roundabout here and you want to dart up the top of the hill, like, and it tries to scrabble them, like the traction control comes on and it just tries to tear its own tires off. It's so fast. It's kind of frightening, but when you have one pedal driving on, it's really easy. You just kind of put your foot down, take your foot off, and the brakes come on and it's starting to charge again. It's awesome stuff. Crispy stuff there, Volvo. I really do mean that they've done such a good job on that factor. To give you the feeling of a little bit of performance, not a little bit, a lot of performance, but it's still fully electric, like it still does its job. Now, speaking of efficiencies, here's where I have a bit of a problem. So efficiency wise, I would expect an electric car to be getting under 20. You know, any of you who've been through my videos before know that I keep going on about being under 20 kilowatt hour per 100 kilometers. That is the kind of goldy area. Really gold area is under 15. So 15 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers is really good. And ones that I've gotten that from is Tesla Model 3. I've gotten it from Volkswagen ID 4 and 5. A couple of others. I think the Mustang Mach-E was down in that area too, 15, 16 or something. But this has consistently gotten up over 20. 18 was the best I seen it, but that was me, like I was driving like a saint. Any sort of cruising time will drive it up to 21, 22. We went to see Billie Eilish the other night. We drove from Portlaoise to the 3 Arena in Dublin, which is all motorway all the way there. 100 km/h on the M50, 120 down here. I did the 120. And it was grand. The range was fine. There and back, didn't have to charge or anything in the meantime. Around 200 kilometers, give or take. But the fuel efficiency, or the numbers that are coming back at me, were 21.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, which is not efficient. As battery sizes go, that's not, you could get better efficiency from that battery for sure. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've learned something and hit the subscribe button along the way. It's been a busy, very, very, very busy last 6 months. Mammon competitions is kind of partly my gig as well. I'm hoping that's going to pick up for everybody. We really want to do honest, good, interesting competition stuff is what we're really after. And I think it's going to be pretty successful for us. I really do, because we've hand chosen things to give away, you know, in a competitive sense, and we're trying to keep it all very reasonably priced so anybody can enter and have a good chance of winning something that's actually useful to you in Ireland, not some like 90-inch television or a 1976 English Reg something or other classic car. These are good things to win. We'll have along the way, so it's worth keeping an eye on. MammonCompetitions.com. You'll find Mammon Competitions on Instagram, on Twitter, no, not on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. It's also on TikTok and Facebook. We'll be doing the draws on Facebook. I'll be hosting the draws as well, so it's 100% legit. I wouldn't have got involved in it, and it was. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, and until the next time, I'll see you on the far side of this very slow moving truck. But I'm using the active cruise controls, doesn't even matter, it's fine.